What is up, YouTube? Today we are answering the question of, is Zebi dead? Had some very interesting conversations over the weekend about Zebi. I will share my findings with you. We're also going to do a very quick ICO review on a project called Availcom. Stay tuned, we're jumping into that now. What is going on, guys? Rodney here with Crypto Bros. Welcome to today's video. As I said, we are talking about Zebi. So over this past weekend, I had a conversation with one of my buddies who's very heavily invested in Zebi. One of his biggest qualms outside of its tanked 90+% is the fact that they are not supporting their community. There's no updates, there's no news, there's nothing big that's really reported out for them up until fairly recently. So I did some digging, gonna share my findings on there. We'll define if Zebi is dead. It's clearly not. You'll see that in today's video. Also, towards the end of the video, we're going to do a quick ICO review project on a coin called Availcom. They're essentially taking like a Airbnb plus Uber and kind of putting them together where you essentially can lease or rent vehicles or apartments or homes all in the same application, basically saving people time. Really cool idea, especially considering those are two of the biggest kind of shared economy things that are out there today. So stay tuned. We will jump into this right now. So before we actually talk about what Zebi's been working on over the last 3 or 4 months, let's talk about some current price points. For one, Zebi is currently trading at 1.5 pennies with a market cap of $7.1 million, 24-hour trade volumes 1.434 mil. Here's the thing. Zebi has retraced essentially 93% from its all-time high. That makes this like a 15x backup just to reach its all-time high. And with a current market cap of essentially 7 million bones, I think this is severely undervalued in terms of like the scope of the project. Remember, they're very similar to Icon in terms of that connectivity piece and uniting everybody on blockchain while managing the data that's over there. So again, really interesting there. But the biggest qualm people have is the fact that there really isn't any news or updates or things for them to go off of that keep their community happy. What's great is Zebi has pretty much acknowledged like, hey, we haven't been good to our investors or the community surrounding our project, so we are going to start working on that. But just looking at the events, mainnet launches a year from now, and the masternode specifics come out in about a month. And in terms of the news, like everything right here are all Medium articles. You know, we're not seeing stuff on partnerships or whatever. And the interesting thing that I kind of found in my research is it seems like it's because we're based kind of in the US, and it seems like it's getting a little bit more coverage over in India, but still not enough to make the community happy. So anyway, we'll jump into the slides, we'll talk about what they've been doing, and we'll go from there. So to answer the question, is Zebi dead? The answer is actually no. They're actually progressing very well with their project. They've just done a poor job of kind of communicating that out to their community. And just to give you guys a quick recap, if you're unfamiliar with the project or whatever, Zebi was actually founded in 2015 with the vision of blockchain and big data. People were legitimately calling it the icon of India because they are using blockchain to kind of connect all these different industries across India. They do have a core solution of the Zebi AI chain, which is in production today, both with government and corporate entities, specifically in client data management. And don't forget, guys, India itself has 1.34 billion people and a huge digital ecosystem. They also have a countrywide initiative to launch 100 smart cities by 2020, and this is literally a $15 billion push here. So the state of Andhra Pradesh is part of this, and they are also a part of the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, who have signed a multi-year contract with Zebi to be a part of this mission to launch all these smart cities. But other than that, you know, we really haven't heard much from them recently. So what is going on? Well, for one, in a recent Medium article, Zebi has kind of addressed the fact like, hey, we haven't been good to you guys. And it says, "Dear Zebi community, in this Medium article, we'd like to address the recent marketing concerns from ZCO investors and remind everyone of our vision and what Zebi has set out to do in the real world. We do acknowledge that our efforts have not been visible enough in the past couple of months. Too often we have pushed updates and interactions about our progresses to the side because we have been too preoccupied with expanding our core business. We could also have been more proactive in creating visibility for new investors after our ICO launch. This has led to a misunderstanding and dissatisfaction for some of our community members." And this is exactly what my buddy was talking about. Like, this is where his frustration lies. It wasn't necessarily with the price point, but it was lack of visibility. So what they've just recently launched here is the fact that they're going to start up a Medium page, or I'm sorry, a Reddit page, which is currently open, and they are also going to be running Medium updates, which I pulled a lot of this information up. They are good reads, but again, there's nothing super special about those, although it does contain a lot of good information. So anyway, to start, is this the start of their marketing effort? I don't necessarily think that is the case, but what they're going to be pushing for in the upcoming months is spreading the Zebi story to a wider audience, make Zebi's real-world product and development visible to everybody, make sure Zebi is better understood as an investment with a value, and create a stronger community and engagement communications between Zebi investors and between investors themselves. So what has Zebi actually been doing in this time? Well, in early August, they were at the International Blockchain Congress, where they announced their EDU chain. This is their education chain. This is something they're very proud of. This is something they've been working on for a long time. So what is it? It is their solution to authenticate and validate school and college certificates, diplomas, marks of high honor, etc., essentially moving these educational records and putting them on the blockchain. They have a huge problem in India with doctorate certificates, and it's becoming like this huge ordeal. Not only are companies hiring out like verification companies to help decipher what is real and what is fake, but it is also costing these businesses millions of dollars a year to authenticate, is this a real diploma? Are these real credentials or not? So it's really interesting how much of this kind of fraudulent activity there are. So again, their goal with EDU Chain is putting educational records on the blockchain so they can decipher what is real and what isn't. This makes this a very big deal for Zebi because it marks the second memorandum of understanding signed with an active government. Not only that, they did this live at the International Blockchain Congress with the Telangana government. These guys are very excited to be on board. They want to be one of these 100 different smart cities and leading in with the blockchain technology, and Zebi plays a huge role for them to be able to do that. Not only that, the media event was literally covered by 73 different media news sources. It was received very well by the community, put a lot of press out there for those guys, so kudos to them for that. So last but not least is the Zebi ID. Now this is an application for the hotel visitors. They're putting on the final touches of this application before they release it out to the public. Now this app actually ties into the Zebi AI chain. So if you didn't know, the Zebi AI chain is fully active in Andhra Pradesh, and it is mandatory for any type of like hotel or hospitality establishment to gather visitor information and send it off to the police. The police station essentially does criminal background checks, does stuff with national security. Now this is spread across 650 hotels in the area, which is amazing. Now what they've done is basically taken out the old manual way. They used to do it with paper and fax it over to the police station. Now it's all on the blockchain. And the application itself is specifically for the consumers. This makes your check-in super easy. This is making your SMS verifications for your phone to check in, check out. You're getting one-time passwords. All your information is not stored in centralized locations. It is all stored safely on the blockchain, not between 62 different hotel chains. And the application is tying this all together. And if you think about it, everything Zebi has had up until this point has all been business-to-business focused. This is actually bringing it and uniting it with the consumer. The cool thing about this is the fact that once they kind of nail down this technology, they can start implementing this into other industries outside of hospitality. So, to answer the question, is Zebi dead? No, they absolutely are not. They are working towards, or they're progressing nicely in their project, which is very nice to see. They've just done a bad job at getting this information out to their community. So I can see why people are frustrated, but in terms of being a solid project and the scope of the project, I think all things are really well established for these guys. So kudos to them, and that is all I have for Zebi. So the very last thing we are talking about tonight is an ICO called Availcom, and I actually think this is a pretty impressive ICO, and it's very easy to understand, but I think the use cases are some of the best we've seen in terms of ICOs that I've looked at, and I say that for a couple reasons. One, it's because I think this is more consumer-based, meaning some of the other ICOs we've looked at before are all business-to-business, where this goes straight to the consumer. And then two, it's in things that we use so much today that even a small amount of adoption I think will do very well for this specific ICO. So imagine being able to, book your Airbnb the same way and on the same platform that you book like a car. So you fly into a city, you book your Airbnb, and you book like your Airbnb car all on the same platform. That is what these guys are doing specifically, and they're doing it from a keyless entry with all the information stored on the blockchain. So I'm just going to read this little piece here. Our society is developing. and the classical ways of property renting are becoming obsolete. All processes are accelerated and simplified. The purpose of our platform is to facilitate your life so you do not have to waste precious time on unnecessary meetings. We save time and money for you. And so I'm kind of comparing this to my recent trip. So I'm going to be going to Germany sometime in September. And right now I've had to book my flights on one site. I've had to book my Airbnbs on another site. We'll have to rent a taxi or rent a car from another site, and on top of that, we'll have to book like some trains while we're out there. So that's 5 different platforms. These are combining like the main 2, vehicle and some type of property rental, and they're doing this all with this keyless platform. They actually do have a prototype out right now. You can see right here, this chick actually has a phone, and I don't know why this popped up. She has a phone in her hand, and what she's doing is using the phone to unlock this actual door right here, lock and unlock it. So, you know, if I rented my house out to you over this application, you don't have to meet me and get a key or anything. I don't have to be like, hey, the key is in the back under a rock. All this information is on your cell phone. So you walk up to the door, you punch in the code, it unlocks the door, you're in and out. They're doing this for both property rentals and cars, and they're putting it in one simple application. I just think that's actually a genius idea. Even with a small amount of adoption, I think this could be a pretty legitimate project just because it takes 2 existing spaces that are already huge to begin with and puts it into one platform. So kudos to them for that. If you're curious about the ICO details, the cost of one AVL coin is 3 cents, and there is a 50% token in the private sale. I think it's supposed to say token bonus. If we're looking at their soft cap and their hard cap, soft cap only $3 million, hard cap $25 million. I think the soft cap is fairly reasonable, and if they land anywhere, you know, 10, 12, 14 million, I think they will just be fine. As we get down there, it just talks about, you know, where the funds are going, how they're allocating it. What I do like is they do have, you know, 25% of their budget going to marketing, bringing people on the application, getting users on there, getting people actually renting their things out. And why I think this will work so well is because we're seeing this kind of shared economy really take off. And when we can do it in a decentralized manner in spaces that we already know are very successful, that gives a ton of opportunity. Like a lot of days I work from home and I don't drive at all. To have my car out there doing work or being paid for it just to, you know, it sits in the garage, whatever would be fantastic. Or same thing, like if you want to rent out your home or a room in your house, you have that ability to do that in a decentralized manner with no person in there, and you don't even have to be around. So that's very, very cool. And here it just kind of breaks down, you know, some of the advantages that it has, specifically compared to Airbnb, Booking.com, Hotels.com, Avis, and Hertz. So it combines all of those into one platform, using the keyless entry, making things all operated. And, you know, if I don't want to rent it to you or whatever, or you have bad reviews as a renter, I don't have to. And just like myself, like if I'm not a good host, all this information is saved on the blockchain. So being that it is, like I can't go back and change a review, and you can't, so it's all on there. So it's kind of projecting like this trust mechanism, like, hey, don't be a shithead and we'll be just fine. Looking at the roadmap, not too crazy, you know, it does go out to 2020, but not an issue here, but they have a lot of development pieces to go. So that is definitely one thing to keep in mind. So as we break into basically Q3, you know, we're doing the private sale, developing the Availcom platform, developing the application for Android and iOS, and the development of automatic access to the leased property. As you kind of check out some of their other information, like the issue of getting an unlocking system for like the doors on a house really isn't a big deal. But implementing that into some of these, you know, smart cars, this has to go through these different software upgrades. That's going to be a little bit more of the difficult piece here. So as we jump into Q4, conducting the pre-ICO Availcom platform startup alpha, run and test Availcom applications on their ICO. So a lot of things in the works here. And again, we're going to be funding, you know, if this is a project you would be into, you would essentially be funding it from the beginning because they need these funds to move on. Anyway, just going down, there's actually a lot of questions. I read through every single one of these. What really sold me on this is the idea, especially considering I just booked or just are going through this hassle of booking all this stuff to go overseas. and the fact that most days I work from home, so I have an available car that I legitimately could just set up, and I could go drop this at a train station, at an airport, at someone else, and just let someone use it where they need it most. So I think the concept is really, really great, and I love how it's kind of combining two of the bigger shared economy pieces that we see today into one actual platform. So anyway, that is all I have for you guys tonight. I hope the Zebi breakdown was clear. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, I do have a beer can that should be popping up in the left-hand corner right about now. If you click that, that will subscribe you to the channel. As always, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Have a great night, and I will check you later.